Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you, Madan Prabhuji, for joining in. I will announce in 1 minute. Thank you so much.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Okay. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today, reciters are Madan Prabhuji will be reciting in Sanskrit and Shiji Kishori Mataji will be reciting in English from Canto 3, Chapter 31, verses 17 to 33. So, Madan Prabhuji, whenever you're ready, can you please start with invocation 3 times? Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Dehanya deha vivare jatagragni vanastrijak Vinmutrakupapatito brishabtaptadehaha Ichannito vivasitum ganayan swamasan Nirvasyate kripana dhirpagavan
Hare Krishna. Fallen into a pool of blood, stool, and urine within the abdomen of his mother, his own body scorched by the mother's gastric fire, the embodied soul, anxious to get out, counts his months and prays, O my Lord, when shall I, a wretched soul, be released from this confinement?
Yene drishim gatimasau dashamasya isha sangrahita purudayena bhavadrishena svenaiva tushyate kritena sadhina nathaha ko nama tat prati vivinajalimasya kuryat.
My dear Lord, by your causeless mercy, I am awakened to consciousness, although I am only 10 months old. For this causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the friend of all fallen souls, there is no way to express my gratitude but to pray with folded hands.
पश्यत्ययं दिशनया ननु सप्तवद्रिः शारीरकेतमशरीर्यपरस्वदेहे यत्सृष्टया सन्तमहं पुरुषं पुराणं पश्ये बहिर्हृदि च चैत्यमेव प्रतीतम्.
The living entity in another type of body sees only by instinct. He knows only the agreeable and disagreeable sense perceptions of that particular body. But I have a body in which I can control my senses and can understand my destination. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by whom I have been blessed with this body, and by whose grace I can see him within and without.
सोऽहं वसन्नपि विभो बह्रुदुःखवासं गर्भान्ननिर्जीगमिषे बहिरन्धकूपे यत्रोपयातमुपसर्पति देवमाया मिथ्यामतिर्यदनु संसृतिचक्रमेतत्.
Therefore, my Lord, although I am living in a terrible condition, I do not wish to depart from my mother's abdomen to fall again into the blind well of materialistic life. Your external your, your external energy called Deva Maya at once captures the newly born child and immediately false identification, which is the beginning of the cycle of continual birth and death begins.
तस्मादहं विगतविक्लप ऊर्ध्वरिष्य आत्मानमाशु तमसः सुहृदात्मनैव भूयो यथा व्यसनेमेतदनेकरन्ध्रं मामेव विष्यदुपसादित विष्णुपादः.
Therefore, without being agitated any more, I shall deliver myself from the darkness of nescience with the help of my friend, clear consciousness. Simply by keeping the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu in my mind, I shall be saved from entering into the wombs of many mothers for repeated birth and death.
कपिल उवाच एव कृतमतिर्गर्भे दशमास्यस्तु ऋषिः सद्य क्षिपत्यवाचीनं प्रसूत्यै सूतिमारुतः.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I think you're on mute.
I'll call her.
I think Mataji has. Is there anyone else who would like to do it? I think
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna, Shri Kushari Mata. Can you hear us?
I think she left. Something happened.
Yeah. She's left. Yeah. I think maybe she's got a bad connection.
Maybe, yeah, Prabhu, maybe she's joining. So, Jyoti Mataji, can you till the time please carry on, please,
Okay.
until Mataji join?
Okay. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Lord Kapila
Thank
continues.
you, Hare.
The 10-month-old living entity has these desires even while in the womb. But while he thus extols the Lord, the wind that helps parturition propels from him forth with his face turned downwards so that he may be born.
तेनावसृष्टसहसा कृत्वा वा क्षीर आतुरः विनिष्क्रामति कृच्छ्रेण निरुच्छावासो हतस्मृतिः.
Pushed downward all of a sudden by the wind, the child comes out with great trouble, head downwards, breathless and deprived of memory due to severe agony.
पतितो भुव्यसृङ्गमिश्रः विष्टा भूरिव चेष्टते रोक्ष्यति गते ज्ञाने विपरीतं गति गतः.
The child thus falls on the ground, smeared with stool and blood, and plays just like a worm germinated from the stool. He loses his superior knowledge and cries under the spell of Maya.
परच्छन्दं न विदुषा पुष्यमानो जनेन सह अनभिप्रीतमापन्नः प्रत्याख्यातु मनीश्वरः.
After coming out of the abdomen, the child is given to the care of persons who are unable to understand what he wants, and thus he is nursed by such persons. Unable to refuse whatever is given to him, he falls into undesirable circumstances.
शायितो शुचिपर्यङ्के जन्तुस्वेदजदूषिते नेशकण्डूये नगानान् आसनोत्थानचेष्टने.
Laid down on a foul bed infested with sweat and germs, the poor child is incapable of scratching his body to get relief from his itching sensation, to say nothing of sitting up, standing, or even moving.
तुदन्यामत्यचं दंशा मशकामत्कुणादयः रुदन्तं विगतज्ञानं कृमिकं यथा.
In his helpless condition, gnats, mosquitoes, bugs, and other germs bite the baby, whose skin is tender, just as smaller worms bite a big one. The child, deprived of his wisdom, cries bitterly.
इत्येवं शैशवं भुक्त्वा दुःखं पौगण्डमेव च अलब्धाभिस्थितो ज्ञानम् उद्धमन्युषु चार्पितः.
In this way, the child passes through his childhood, suffering different kinds of distresses, and attains boyhood. In in boyhood also he suffers pain over desires to get things he can never achieve, and this, due to ignorance, he becomes angry and sorry.
सह देहेन मानेन वर्धमानेन मन्युना करोति विग्रहं कामी कामेष्वन्ताय चात्मनः.
With the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger, thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people.
भूतै पञ्चभिरारब्धे देहे देह्यबुधो सकृत् अहं मेत्ये सद्राह करोति कुमतिर्मतिम्.
Hare Krishna, I can join now. Sorry about the interruption. My computer was down. Thank you. By such ignorance, the living entity accepts the material body, which is made of 5 elements, as himself. With this misunderstanding, he accepts non-permanent things as his own and increases his ignorance in the darkest region.
तदर्थं कुरुते कर्म यत्ततो याति संसृतिं यो नो याति तदक्लेशम् अविद्या कर्मबन्धनः.
For the sake of the body, which is a source of constant trouble to him, and which follows him because he is bound by ties of ignorance and fruitive activities, he performs various actions which cause him to be subjected to repeated birth and death.
सद्विपति पुनः शिष्णोदरकृतोद्यमैः आस्थितो रमते जन्तुः तमो विशति पूर्ववत्.
If, therefore, the living entity again associates with the path of unrighteousness, influenced by sensually minded people engaged in the pursuit of sexual enjoyment and the gratification of the palate, he again goes to hell as before.
Satyam Shaucham Dayamanam Buddhi Shrir Hirya Kshama Shamo Damo Bhagascheti Yat Sangadyati Sangshayam.
He becomes devoid of truthfulness, cleanliness, mercy, gravity, spiritual intelligence, shyness, austerity, fame, forgiveness, control of the mind, control of the senses, fortune, and all such opportunities. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Ki Jai. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you,
Very
Mother.
much, Prabhuji and Jyoti Mata ji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, devotees, for your kind and wonderful recitation. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Glories to your service.
Glories to you as well, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So today we continue with our reading and studying of the 31st chapter of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the chapter is entitled The Movements of the Living Entities. So, very relevant chapter. We as Jivatma, living entities, we've been moving around this universe for an infinite amount of time. And Lord Kapila in this verse gives us the most insightful aspects of that movement. So we'll continue reading a very nice section of this canto, verses 26 to 29. I share my screen. Let me just see first. Where's my screen? Krishna, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Text 26. So as we know, as we've been reading and discussing, this particular part of the Bhagavatam is describing a very relatable situation, a situation that we all have experienced who knows how many amount of times. But there's something about that experience we never recall or hear about. But Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the knowledge of that experience. So we'll start off by reciting the Mangala Charanam prayers, and then we'll jump into the verses discussing today. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Shri Yata Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutan Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Satidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Astrachadi Shatadine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So text number 26. Saito Suchi Paryanke Jantu Svedaja Dushite Nesha Kanduyane Anganam Ashanotana Chetasne. Lay down in a foul bed infested with sweat and germs. The poor child is incapable of scratching his body to get relief from his itching sensation, to say nothing of sitting up, standing, or even moving. Purport. It should be noted that the child is born crying and suffering. After birth, the same suffering continues, and he cries because he is so disturbed by the germs in his foul bed, which is contaminated by his urine and stool. The poor child continues to cry. He is unable to take any remedial measure for this relief. One of the worst situations to be in is to being in a suffering position and to feel helpless and to be incapable of doing it. Now we all know if we have an itch, the inability to scratch the itch is very difficult. Recently, I had to go for a PET scan, and you have to sit in this machine and you have to be very still. They actually strap your legs and they strap your body, your arms, because to do the scan, you have to be very still. Otherwise, you don't get the results you want to. And I remember this, I did the scan about 2 weeks ago. I was sitting in this machine, my legs were strapped, my arms were strapped, and I had an itch in my nose. And I wanted to scratch the itch, but I was confined in this machine. And it made me think of these verses from the Bhagavatam. How difficult, painful it is. At least I was in this machine, it was a clean environment. But when we're in the womb of the mother, as the Bhagavatam said, we are in a foul bed, because in that amniotic fluid, imagine the baby is there, and it would seem from the description of the Bhagavatam that the baby may pass stool, and the baby may pass urine, or maybe it's coming from the mother, and the baby is in that environment. Horrible. And sometimes we go in the airplane. We are in like a little womb. Sometimes 12 hours, sometimes more. We're in a capsule. We have to sit down for most of the flight. And we can't move. And we just wait. When will I reach my destination? When will I reach my destination? It's so horrible. But we are in the situation for 9 months. Not 12 hours, which is so difficult to bear. 9 months. And one could think, once you've been through such a traumatic experience, you will just say, never again. This is it. I'm not putting myself again through such a horrible, horrible situation. We would think so, isn't it? This is the situation. But as we read on, the incredulous thing happens. Incredulous things happened. This experience of suffering. Text number 27. Tudanti amatvacham dasha mashakam matukundayaha rudantam vigata jnanam krimaya krimikam yatha. In this helpless condition, gnats, mosquitoes, bugs, and other germs bite the baby whose skin is tender, just as smaller worms bite a big worm. The child, deprived of his wisdom, cries bitterly. The word vigata jnanam means that the spiritual knowledge which the child developed in the abdomen is already lost to the spell of Maya. Due to various kinds of disturbances and being out of the abdomen, the child cannot remember what he was thinking of for his salvation. It is assumed that even if a person acquires some spiritually uplifting knowledge, circumstantially he is prone to forget it. Not only children, but also elderly persons should be very careful to protect their sense of Krishna consciousness and avoid unfavorable circumstances so that they may not forget their prime duty. Now, this is a very, very sobering purport. You know, even if one has acquired some spiritual knowledge, the whole experience even makes one forget that knowledge. For me, it's very sobering because often I think, you know, in such a fallen condition I am, I probably have to take a number of births still. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he encouragingly said 3 births, minimum 3 births, or maximum. 1 birth Kanishta, next birth Madhyam, 3rd birth Uttama. And what scares me is I may think that I've acquired some spiritual knowledge in this lifetime, but even that can be forgotten. As Prabhupada said, it's a very risky situation. To take birth again is a very, very risky position. And these verses from the Bhagavatam, it may seem that it is directed mainly for those who are materialistic in nature. But it has application even for us, very much in Krishna consciousness. And we have to take it so seriously. We become deprived of this wisdom. If Krishna is kind to us, he may make us remember, like how he made Jad Bharat remember. But that all depends on Krishna's mercy. Interesting point here is gnats, mosquitoes, and bugs bite the baby. So this seems like a At this point of the verse, the baby has come out of the womb. And he's immediately confronted with adibhotic, miseries caused by the living entities. Because mosquito can't get into the womb. Text number 28. Iti evam shaishavam bhuktva dukkam pogandam evacha alabdha bipsito jnana ida manyo sucharpitaha. In this way, the child passes through his childhood, suffering different kinds of distress, and attains boyhood. In boyhood also he suffers pain over desires to get things he can never achieve. And thus, due to ignorance, he becomes angry and sorrow. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. From birth to the age of 5 years old is called childhood. After 5 years, up to the end of the 15th year is called Puganda. At 16 years of age, youth begins. The distress of childhood already explained. But when the child attains boyhood, he is enrolled in a school which he does not like. He wants to play, but he's forced to go to school and study and take responsibility for passing examinations. We've all been through this, haven't we? Another kind of distress is that he wants to get some things with which to play. But circumstances may be such that he's not able to attain them. And he thus becomes aggrieved and feels pain. In one word, he is unhappy, even in his boyhood, just as he was unhappy in his childhood. What to speak of youth? Boys are apt to create so many artificial demands for playing. And when they do not attain satisfaction, they become furious with anger. And the result is suffering. So the suffering is in the womb. The suffering is when you come out of the womb. And the suffering continues through boyhood and youth. It's just that the suffering is of a different nature. In the womb, there's a certain type of suffering, as we've been reading. When we come out, there's a different type of suffering, as we've just read in the last verse. And then we go to boyhood. We suffer. And Prabhupada describes the suffering as the nature of boyhood is to want to play. That's the nature of boyhood. But we can't play without restriction. We have to get an education. We have to go to school. We have to study. We have to come back and get homework. We have to take examinations. And we all know how stressful examinations are. Sometimes I have these nightmares. I'm sitting for my university exams again. And it's like really stressful. That's like a terrible nightmare. And then he wants to play, and he wants a bicycle to freely ride, but he doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the facility. So many things we want in boyhood to increase our play. You can think about our own, and we know. So that's carrying on. Suffering. One of the biggest suffering is to have an unfulfilled desire. And that is explained in the next verse, how the dynamic works. Unfulfilled desire. Saha dehena manena vardha manena manyuna karoti vigraham kami kamish antaya chatmanaha. With the growth of the body, the living entity, in order to vanquish his soul, increases his false prestige and anger, and thereby creates enmity towards similarly lusty people. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3rd chapter, verse 36, Arjuna inquired from Krishna about the cause of a living entity's lust. It is said that a living entity is eternal, and as such qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord. Then what is the reason he falls prey to the material and commits so many sinful activities by the influence of the material nature? In reply to this question, Lord Krishna said that it is lust which causes a living entity to glide down from his exalted position to the abominable condition of material existence. This lust circumstantially changes into anger. But lust and anger stand on the platform of the mode of passion. Lust is actually the product of the mode of passion. And in the absence of satisfaction of lust, the same desire transforms into anger on the platform of ignorance. When ignorance covers the soul, it is the source of its degradation to the most abominable condition of life. To raise oneself from hellish life to the highest position of spiritual understanding is to transform this lust into love of Krishna. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great acharya of the Vaishnava Sampradaya, said, Kama Krishna, Kamar Pane. Due to our lust, we want many things for our sense gratification. But the same lust can be transformed in a purified way so that we want everything for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anger can also be utilized towards a person who is atheistic or who is envious of the personality of Godhead. As we have fallen into this material existence because of our lust and anger, the same two qualities can be utilized for the purpose of advancing in Krishna consciousness, and one can elevate himself again to his former pure spiritual position. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore recommended that because in material existence we have so many objects of sense gratification which we need for the maintenance of the body, we should use all of them without attachment for the purposes of satisfying the senses of Krishna. That is actual renunciation. So it continues, the suffering. As we grow older, the desires increase. And when the desires are not fulfilled, it turns into lust. And lust is not fulfilled, it becomes anger. And when we become overtaken by anger, we fall into the platform of ignorance. And then we get covered again. So this is how things work. And the Bhagavatam is explaining. But the Bhagavatam, the beauty of the Bhagavatam and the beauty of the Srila Prabhupada's purports and the beauty of Krishna consciousness, for every negative, there is a positive. Just like Prabhupada says, just like this lust and anger can lead to our fall down, lust and anger can also lead to our elevation in Krishna consciousness. And, Prabhupada says, like lust, by turning it towards Krishna, we can transform it to love. Anger can also be used in the service of Krishna. Once, Srila Prabhupada, he was in India, and the hippie came to join Prabhupada's movement. And he was very enthusiastic. And he said to Prabhupada, let's take this Krishna consciousness, let's chant, and we can get rid of anger. And Prabhupada said, what's wrong with anger? Krishna spoke the entire Bhagavad Gita just to make Arjuna angry. what is wrong with anger? Hanuman used his anger in the service of Lord Ram. And Prabhupada said, we use everything in the service of Krishna, even anger. So this whole process of Krishna consciousness is so beautiful. That there's not only knowledge and enlightenment about the negative, but also about the positive. And you won't find this. The Mayavadis, they'll turn blue in the face, being negative about the material world and Maya and so on. But they can never explain to us how Yukta Vairagya Uchyate, everything can be used in the service of Krishna. So these verses, they just, for me, I remember years ago when I first started to read the Bhagavatam, this section of the Bhagavatam, Back to Godhead magazine in the early days, they should have a section in the middle. It was like similar color to the screen. The pages used to be that color. And I remember I got a copy of the Bhagavad Gita of the Back to Godhead when I was just early in Krishna consciousness. And this part of the Bhagavatam and it like blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And I said, is this what I've been through? Is this what I'm going to face? And I have one of my quirks is I'm a bit claustrophobic. I can't, I struggle to be in a confined space. And just the thought of being 9 months in an arched position in a closed up bag is probably one of the most frightening things to consider. And whenever I sort of feel morose, thinking about my fallen condition, yes, I've got to take many births. I think to myself, but yes, okay, I can take many births. I pray to Krishna and he'll engage me in Srila Prabhupada's movement. And that's okay. I'm quite happy to come to many, many births and to serve Krishna and to serve Srila Prabhupada's movement. But the most frightening part is that for every birth I take, I have to be 9 months in the womb. And the scope for me of forgetting Krishna is so great. I want to share with you, this we know in the Bhagavatam, Shukdev Goswami, he refused to come out. Some say 12 years, some say 16 years, but for 12 years he stayed in the womb of his mother. And then his father Vyasadeva said, but what's wrong? Come out. And he said, no, I'm too afraid of coming out. Maya will get me. And then Vyasadeva couldn't convince Shukdev to come out. Maya was more scary to him than being in that confined space. So Vyasadeva didn't know what to do. Eventually he had to call Lord Krishna. He went to Dwaraka, he called Lord Krishna. And actually there's a photo of that I have. Let's see if I can share it. Yeah, there it is. So Shukdev, he was in the womb of his mother. And Lord Krishna came and told Shukdev, I guarantee you, if you come out, you won't fall into Maya. And only after Lord Krishna gave him that guarantee, he came out. He didn't even trust his father because he said, my father is a householder and householders are still prone to forget. So only Lord Krishna could convince Shukdev Goswami to come out. There's also a beautiful song written by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I'd like to share it with you quickly. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he takes on the position of a conditioned soul. And he writes in this beautiful song called Bolia Tomare. Bolia Tomare Samsara Asiya. I really like the song. This Bhaktiswarup Damodar sings it in a beautiful way. He says, "Oh Lord, forgetting you and coming to this material world, I've experienced a host of sins and sorrows. Now I approach your lotus feet and submit my tale of woe. While I was bound up tightly in the unbearable confines of my mother's womb, O Lord, you once revealed yourself before me, and appearing briefly, you abandoned this poor servant of yours. At that moment I thought, after my birth this time, I will surely worship you with undivided attention. But alas, after taking birth, I fell into the entangling network of worldly illusions. Thus I possessed not even a drop of true knowledge. As a dear son fondled in the laps of attentive relatives, I passed my time smiling and laughing. The affection of my father and mother helped me forget you more, still more, and I began to think that the material world was a very nice place. As they say, déjà vu. Day by day, I gradually grew into a young boy and began playing with other boys. Soon my powers of understanding emerged, so I diligently studied my childhood lessons every day. Proud of my accomplished education, I later traveled from place to place, and earned much wealth, thereby maintaining my family with undivided attention. I forgot you, O Lord Hari. Now in old age, this Bhakti Vinod very sadly weeps as death approaches. I failed to worship you, O Lord, and instead pass my days in vain. What will be my fate now? So I want to learn the song, and I think I should sing it as often as possible as a reminder, because we forget. We forget. Actually, Srila Prabhupada, he gave a purport to the song, which let me share with you. This beautiful purport. Take a little time, 7 minutes, just a few minutes.
Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam. This is a song sung by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as the surrendering process. We have heard so much about surrender. So here are some of the songs how one can make surrender. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, "The bhuliya tomare sangsare asya." My dear Lord, I have come to this material world by forgetting Lord's. And since I have come here, I have suffered so many troubles since a long, long time through different species of life. So therefore, I have come to surrender unto you and submit unto you the story of my sufferings. First thing is that I had to live within the womb of my mother. Janani Jathare Chilam Japan, when I was there, packed up in a airtight bag, hands and legs, I was staying within the womb of my mother. At that time, I had a glimpse of you. After that time, I could not see you. At that time, I could see you, a glimpse. At that time I thought, takhono bhabino janamo paiya. I thought that this time when I get out of this womb, I shall surely engage 100% in the service of the Lord, worshipping the Lord. No more. This repetition of birth and death is so troublesome. Now I shall engage, this birth I shall engage myself simply on devotional service to get out of this Maya. But unfortunately, exactly after my birth, janama hoilo pori Maya jale, na hoilo gyana love. As soon as I got out of the Om, immediately Maya, the illusory energy, captured me, and I forgot that I was in such precarious condition, and I was crying and praying to the Lord that this time I shall get out and engage myself in devotional service. But all these senses were lost as soon as I took my birth. Then the next stage is Adavere Chele Sajonero Kole. Then I become a very pet child, and everyone is taking me on the lap, and I thought life is very nice. Everyone loves me. Then I thought this material life is very good. Adarere Chele Sajonero Kole. Hashiya Katanu call, because there is no trouble. As soon as I am in little difficulty, everyone comes forward to give me relief. So I thought my life will go on like this. So I simply wasted my time, simply smiling, and that smiling became attractive to my relatives, and they patted me. I thought this is the life. Janaka Janani Snehite Bhuliya Sangsar Lage. At that time, a great deal of affection of parents, so I thought a material life is very nice. Krome dini dini balako hoiya khelunu balako saho. Then gradually I grew up and I began to play with my childhood friends, and it was very nice life. And after some days, when I was little intelligent, then I was put into school, so I began to study very seriously. And then after that, Vidyaro Gaurave Bhrami Deshe Deshe Dhanu Uparjana Kari. Then being puffed up, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was magistrate, so he was transferred from one place to another. He is stating his life that Vidyaro Gaurave, because I was little educated, so I was posted and I was earning decently. So I was thinking, it is very nice. Vidyaro Gaurave Bhrami Deshe Deshe Dhanu Uparjana Kari. Sajana Palana Koriyak Mane. And only duty was how to maintain, how to raise family members, how to keep them happy. That became my only aims and object of life. Bardhakke এখন ভগতি বিনোদ. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his old age, কাঁদিয়া কাতর হতি. Now I am seeing that I'll have to give up all this arrangement. I'll have to go away and take another body. Therefore I do not know what kind of body I am going to get. Therefore I am crying. I am very much aggrieved. বার্ধক্যে এখন ভগতি বিনোদ কাঁদিয়া কাতর হতি. I am very much aggrieved. না ভজিয়া তোরে দিন বৃথা গেল এখন. So without worshipping you, without serving you, I have simply wasted my time in this way. I do not know what to do, therefore I surrender.
Dear devotees, this is our situation revealed to us by the Bhagavatam. I pray that you can bless me, that this lifetime and next lifetime we don't forget. And we pray for everyone that we don't fall into this precarious position anymore. At least it's the start. It's the start of our complete awakening. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your service. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments, reflections?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Thank you for the nice class. I had a question. I have a question.
Mhm.
You know, when you see your family members, they don't believe their dreams and they suffer a lot. But when we try to tell them, they are not willing to take Krishna consciousness. So, what do we do?
What do? We help them to progress according to their capacity. You know, if they can't, you tell them, chant one round of mala. And they'll say, oh, tired, I don't have time, it's difficult. Then you'll say, okay, just chant one mantra. Chant together with me. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or you say them, oh, we got a few minutes. I want to share with you one beautiful verse I've read from the Bhagavad Gita. Or when you go to visit them, you bring some nice tasty prasadam. So they cannot take wholeheartedly to the process of Krishna consciousness. But Prabhupada said it's like this, agyata sukriti. You know, they deposit 1 cent, another 1 cent, another 1 cent. Eventually it may become a pound. So we can't force. They are unable to take. But according to what their capacity is to take, we give. And that will benefit them. It may take a bit longer for them, but it will definitely benefit them.
But they don't believe in God, so that's the problem.
If they don't believe in God, then you just give them prasadam.
Thank you.
Yes.
They're suffering lots, but they don't believe in God, and we can't see them suffering. You know, it's our relatives, and but as you said, I will try to give them prasadam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Pray
Thank
for
you.
them. Yeah, pray for them. Pray for them.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for that excellent class, as always. This chapter is very scary, and I also tend to share it with my relatives, you know, people who don't take Krishna consciousness very, very seriously. They think religion is a ritual, but putting that aside, I try and give them the example of this chapter. But they fail to understand. They take the process of, you know, having children a very joyful thing, bringing babies in the world very joyful, and they don't understand, you know, what the fetus is going through, the suffering. How do you explain, how do you get it through to them that, you know, how scary it is, how uncomfortable it is, and that we've all been through this and we've forgotten this at the point of birth, and you know, we all enjoy what the good things that happen to us, you know, in material life. We think, oh, this life is very happy. And in that song as you played, you know, where you can go and you earn a bit of money and you think, oh, this is nice, this is good, this is nice, and you only remember good when bad things happen to you. How do you explain to them that? How do you get them to understand to avoid this and not take this great joy in having children and even bringing them into this world? Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. That's a very difficult thing, Mataji, because Maya is so strong and its covering is so great that, and the ignorance is so deep. It's difficult. But through prayers, it's just trying to find, you know, some way we can break through them. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult. Most people, they do not actually want to hear it. They live in denial. You know, to hear such a thing is frightening to them because it's a threat to their sense gratification. So internally, they may know, they have some understanding that there's the truth here, you know, but the truth is too scary for them, very frightening. And we have to accept some people it may take many births. We can try explaining there's something called crematorium renunciation. When people go to the crematorium and they see, the body being burned, they have some experience of renunciation, but very, very quickly they forget. But we have to keep trying. Our Prabhupada says, pour into their ear-holes the message of Urukrama. Even sometimes they resist, they don't want to hear it. Somehow or the other try to find, explain it to them. Sometimes, Prabhupada says, the mother-in-law will try to teach the daughter-in-law through the daughter. So sometimes as long as they're within earshot, you speak to somebody else and they may hear it. But it's difficult, but we have to try. We have to try. That's what Krishna did. He's been doing that to us for many years. Can you imagine how many in our previous lifetimes we were like that? We may have heard the message, but we were obstinate.
Yes.
We were stubborn. We wouldn't take it. How many lifetimes someone must have approached us, tried to enlighten us, but we turned a deaf ear. But this lifetime, by some unimaginable good fortune, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, our ears became receptive. So we be grateful for that, and we be sympathetic and understanding to those who cannot get it. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we've gone quite a bit over today. Apologize. Anyone else got anything they want to add, or we shall close today? Okay, let's close. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyascha patitanam pavanebhyo
Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
Nantakoti Vaishnava
Vrindavan ki
Srila
Prabhupada
Prabhupada
ki jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.